Have you ever wondered why you were born into this particular life? Why these parents? Why this pain? Why now, and not 1,000 years ago? Deep down, in moments of silence, have you ever felt that something is missing? That there's a hidden page missing from the story of your soul? You were not wrong to feel that. Because before you were born, before your first breath, your soul walked through realms you've forgotten. Not fantasy, but truth. Truth so powerful, it was hidden, denied, and erased from our collective memory. But not forever. Because now the veil is thinning, and you are starting to remember. This is not a story. It's not a belief system. It is the sacred journey your soul chose, long before it arrived here. 12 ancient stages, each one a doorway, each one a mirror. And if you walk through them, you will remember who you are, why you came, and how nothing in your life has ever been random. So close your eyes, breathe, and begin to remember. Stage 1, the soul's rest in the divine field. There is a place beyond time, a place your soul knows, even if your mind does not. It is not made of stars or planets, nor is it something your eyes could ever see. It is a vast, weightless stillness, a divine pause that exists between lives. And in this space, your soul rests. Not the kind of rest we know here on earth. This is not sleep. This is not silence. It is a sacred stillness that embraces the soul like a mother cradling her child. A stillness so deep it holds the memory of eternity. This is where you go after death and before life. It is called by many names in forgotten scriptures and hidden teachings. The celestial field, the between, the light chamber. But your soul knows it simply as home. In this space, you are no longer the person you were. You are no longer a name, a face, a story. The roles of daughter, father, seeker, sinner, they all dissolve. What remains is the pure consciousness behind it all. The I am that has always existed and always will. Here, you are free from gravity, both physical and emotional. You don't carry the weight of regrets. You don't replay old memories. You simply exist, suspended in a realm of peace, saturated with divine presence. Time, as you know it, does not exist here. There is no past to run from, no future to reach for, only presence, infinite, warm, alive. This is where the soul returns after each human lifetime, to integrate, to breathe, to remember. Not just to recover from pain, but to bathe in truth again. Here, the illusions of earth dissolve, the illusion of being separate, of being unworthy, of being alone. They melt away like mist in the morning sun. In the soul's rest, you remember that everything you thought you lost was never lost. You remember the ones you loved. You feel them again, not as names or faces, but as waves of light interwoven with your own. There is no grief here, only reunion. And you remember God, not the image of God you were taught, but the experience of God, the breath that birthed you, the stillness that knows you, the love that never left. This resting stage is not just a waiting room between births. It is a sacred initiation. The soul does not rush here. It is not hurried to move on or reincarnate. There is no pressure in the divine. Here, you review not your deeds, but your energy. The rhythm of your last life still echoes through you, and like a musician tuning an instrument, your soul adjusts. It aligns. It heals. Some souls rest for what seems like centuries. Others return swiftly, but all are held in the same loving light, watched over by presences beyond form, beings who do not judge, only witness. And slowly, something begins to stir. a subtle vibration, a gentle calling. Not from outside, but from deep within the soul itself. A sense that there is still more to be done, still more to experience, still more to become. That is the moment the next journey begins. The first seed of incarnation is planted not by force, but by longing. A longing to grow, to love again, to feel what it means to be human. Not because you must, but because you choose to. And that choice is where the second stage begins. But before we leave this moment, this rest, just pause. Breathe. Can you feel it? That ancient peace that lives underneath all your questions. That soft place your soul remembers. Even if your mind has forgotten, that is the soul's rest. And you've been there before. Stage 2, the stirring of the soul. There comes a moment within the stillness of the divine field when silence is no longer enough. The soul, having rested in the womb of eternity, begins to sense a soft vibration, not from without, but from within. It is not a voice, yet it speaks. It is not a command, yet it moves you. Like the first breeze after long stillness, it whispers, "It's time." This is the stirring of the soul, the sacred moment when your essence begins to feel the pull of incarnation again. There is no fear in this calling, only a knowing, a magnetic hum that ripples through your eternal being, reminding you, there is more to experience, there is more to learn, there is more light to awaken through the mystery of matter. You do not hear this call the way human ears hear sound. You feel it in the quiet core of your spirit. A longing to feel again, to choose again, to live again. Not because you lack something, but because life itself is the great sculptor of the soul. And you, an eternal fragment of God, are ready to be shaped once more. This stirring is not assigned to you. No one demands it, not even your guides. It arises from your own sovereign will. A holy echo that says, there are still songs I must sing through the human experience. And with that stir comes remembrance of all the moments that were never truly completed, the karmas still unfolding, the connections that pulse across time, the transformations that await embodiment. You begin to feel Earth again. Its gravity, its scent, its chaos, its beauty. You feel what it's like to wake up in a body, to fall in love, to face challenge, to lose and begin again. These aren't memories yet. They are imprints, vibrations still waiting to be experienced fully. Many souls feel this stirring and return quickly. Others hesitate, because with the stirring comes awareness of what incarnation truly means: to forget, to fall, to hurt, to doubt, to long for home, and not remember where that home is. But the soul is brave beyond imagination. Even now, here on earth, in this very moment, your soul is carrying that same courage, the willingness to feel everything, the joy and the sorrow, just for the chance to expand in light. This stirring is not unlike the quickening of a baby in the womb. Something dormant begins to move, a heartbeat of intention, a pulse of sacred curiosity. It is this pulse that leads the soul forward, beyond rest, beyond stillness, into the mirror of its past. Because before any soul can return to the world of form, it must face what it has already lived, not to be punished, but to be seen. And so begins the third sacred stage. But before we move ahead, ask yourself something. Not with your mind, but with your soul. Have you ever felt an invisible longing you couldn't explain? A quiet ache that everything in this world couldn't satisfy? That ache was the echo of this very stirring. And if you're here listening now, It means your soul is remembering, not learning something new, remembering something ancient. And that is where the journey truly begins. Stage 3, the review of past incarnations. Once the soul responds to the inner stirring, once it says, "Yes, I will return," a sacred mirror is unveiled. This is not a mirror of the body, but of the soul. A space where time collapses, where every moment you've ever lived, every choice, every feeling, every heartbeat, appears before you in exquisite, unbearable clarity. This is the review of past incarnations, and in this place, nothing is hidden. But unlike the fear-based myths you may have heard, this is not a courtroom. There is no judgment, no punishment, no external God scolding you from above. There is only you, seeing yourself through the lens of divine truth. You do not just watch what you did, you feel it. When you caused pain, you feel the ripple of that pain as if it were your own, not as punishment, but as understanding. When you offered kindness, you feel the warmth it ignited in another soul's heart. You sense how one moment of compassion blossomed into many, how one act of cruelty dimmed light across lifetimes. You see yourself not as a villain or hero, but as a soul in motion, learning, forgetting, awakening, falling, returning. It is here in this great life review that your patterns are revealed. You notice the choices you've repeated lifetime after lifetime, the wounds you keep reenacting, the lessons you keep circling around, but never quite completing. And suddenly, your current life begins to make more sense. The relationships that challenge you, the fears that haunt you, the gifts that come easily, they are not random. They are continuations, threads from stories you started long ago. Some souls weep during this review, not from shame, but from deep soul-level humility. Not because they are bad, but because they see how much more loving they could have been. How many moments of fear could have become moments of truth? And yet, surrounding you in this space is love. Unshakable, radiant love. Because the divine does not see your past with condemnation. It sees your bravery, your willingness to fall and rise again. It sees the countless times you kept going, even when you had every reason to give up. And so this review becomes not a punishment, but a gift. Because here you realize you are not the victim of your life. You are its author. And every scar, every triumph, every silence, it has shaped who your soul is becoming. From this sacred remembering comes one question. A question that every soul must answer before they are allowed to choose the next life. What do I still need to learn? It is this question that opens the next doorway, one that will take you even deeper. But before we walk through it, pause with me here and ask yourself, if your soul were to review your current life right now, what would it feel? What patterns would it see repeating? What wounds are still open? What light have you given to others without even realizing it? Your soul already knows. It is watching, even now, patiently, lovingly, because you are not lost. You are simply on your way back. Stage 4, healing and release. After the soul's life review, after seeing with divine clarity every echo it has sent through time, something else begins to arise. A kind of emotional residue, not judgment, but weight. The weight of unspoken words, unforgiven betrayals, love withheld, pain absorbed but never transmuted. Even in the light of the divine, these energies remain, clinging to the edges of the soul like dust on a beam of sunlight. And so, before the soul can move forward, it must go through the next sacred stage, healing and release. This is where the soul is gently unburdened, where the lingering fragments of suffering are acknowledged, embraced, and finally let go. It does not happen in haste. It cannot. Because the soul does not simply forget its past wounds. It honors them. It brings them into the light, one by one, like old letters once buried, now ready to be read with new eyes. In this stage, many souls enter what ancient mystics called the chambers of healing, radiant spaces in the higher realms, where energy is not judged but rebalanced. Here, you may be met by familiar guides. You may be surrounded by pure presence, luminous, formless beings who speak not in words, but in frequencies that your soul understands. They do not tell you what to feel. They feel with you. They mirror back your sorrow, not to amplify it, but to dissolve it. Some souls are invited into crystalline sanctuaries, where sound and light recalibrate what trauma once distorted. Others enter pools of vibrational stillness, where the soul's fragmented parts slowly reunite. You may relive pain here, but differently. You feel it now not through fear or guilt, but through acceptance. And with that, something profound begins to happen. Forgiveness. Not the kind you say out loud or give to another to appear kind, but the soul's forgiveness, deep, cellular, timeless. You forgive yourself for not knowing better, for acting out of fear, for the moments you abandoned your own truth. And as this happens, energetic cords begin to dissolve. The heaviness loosens. The soul grows lighter, clearer. Many describe this stage, not in words, but in sensation, as feeling like becoming whole again. What was broken wasn't broken. It was waiting to be remembered and reintegrated. This healing is not always easy. Some souls carry deep griefs that span lifetimes, old betrayals, unfulfilled soul contracts, lives cut short by violence or drowned in regret. But here, in the presence of divine grace, the soul understands. Nothing was wasted. Even the most painful moments were seeds. Seeds of wisdom, seeds of compassion, seeds of power. And so, with each breath of forgiveness, the soul breathes itself into freedom. The past does not vanish. It becomes light. And now, lighter and wiser, the soul is ready. Not to forget the past, but to build upon it. Because the next stage is not about remembering what was. It's about choosing what will be. Stage 5, the Council of Elders. When the soul has reviewed its past, when it has felt, forgiven, and released. A new door opens, one that leads not deeper into memory, but upward into vision. This is the sacred chamber of the Council of Elders. It is not a myth. Across cultures, languages, and lifetimes, souls who have entered this space describe it in strikingly similar ways. A radiant circle of beings, cloaked in light, beyond gender or age, yet unmistakably ancient. They do not speak with mouths. They do not judge with eyes. They transmit truth directly to the heart of your being. Truth you always knew, but had forgotten. These are not masters who rule over you. They are companions of your soul. They have watched you rise and fall, love and break, forget and remember, across thousands of lifetimes. They know you more fully than any earthly being ever could, because they do not see your surface. They see your soul's trajectory, its arc, its ache, its brilliance waiting to bloom. When you stand before them, you do not kneel, you do not beg, you simply remember that you are loved. This council does not lecture you. Instead, they guide a sacred conversation, one between the deepest parts of you and your highest path forward. They may ask, what lessons do you still seek to master? What qualities has your soul not yet fully embodied? What patterns are ready to be broken once and for all? But more than that, they help you listen to the answers already inside you. In this stage, the soul doesn't just look back, it begins to design forward. And so, in collaboration with these luminous elders, you begin to weave the outline of your next incarnation. You speak of pain, not to avoid it, but to understand where it must teach you. You speak of joy, not to demand it, but to let it guide you. You speak of other souls, those who have been part of your journey again and again, and which ones may return in new roles. A soulmate becoming a sibling, a rival becoming a teacher, a child who once was your parent. Nothing is random here. Every relationship is sacred choreography. In this circle, your choices are never forced. You are not punished, nor coerced. You are empowered, lovingly, patiently, fully. But there is a seriousness to this work, because once you begin the path of incarnation again, the forgetting will return. The pain will feel real, and the stakes, though cosmic in truth, will feel very human. And yet still, you choose. Not because you have to, but because something inside your eternal being whispers, I want to grow. I want to love better. I want to become more of what I already am. And so the council blesses you, not with words, but with energy, with codes, with clarity, with an ancient silence that speaks louder than any sound. And when that blessing settles into your soul, you know it's time. Time to choose the mission that will shape your next life. But before you leave this sacred circle, know this: you have never been alone. Not now, not in this life, not in the life to come. These elders, these presences, they walk beside you always, in dreams, in whispers, in that quiet knowing that you cannot explain. And when you feel lost, you can return to them, not with your body, but with your spirit. Close your eyes, breathe, ask, and listen, because their light still shines through you. Stage 6, Soul Contract Design. With the guidance of the Council of Elders now imprinted deep within, the soul moves into one of the most intricate and sacred stages of pre-incarnation, the design of its soul contracts. This is not a metaphor. This is the divine architecture of your next life, an energetic blueprint woven not with ink or words, but with vibration, intention, and love that stretches beyond time. Every soul you've ever loved, feared, hurt, helped, or even barely known, they do not vanish when you die. They return again and again, not to punish or reward, but to finish the stories you began together. In this sacred stage, you are not alone. You sit across from other souls, luminous beings in their own evolution, and you begin to plan. And what you plan is not easy. You may ask a soul to become your parent, to nurture you or abandon you, to teach you love, or to break you so you can rebuild yourself from truth. You may ask another to become your child, so you can learn patience, sacrifice, or the depth of unconditional love. You may look into the eyes of a soul who was once your enemy, and together, you agree to return, perhaps as friends or lovers, to see if healing is now possible where once there was only pain. These are not roles assigned from above. They are volunteered for, with fierce compassion and spiritual bravery. Some of the souls who wound us most deeply in this life are the ones who loved us enough to play the role we needed for growth. It's not an excuse for cruelty. It's an awakening. that what appears as betrayal in the physical might be service in the eternal. These contracts are layered. Some are brief, a fleeting encounter with a stranger that changes your path forever. Others are lifelong, parents, partners, mentors who shape the landscape of your evolution. And not all contracts are heavy. Some are joy-filled, a soul who agrees to make you laugh when you need it most, a companion who walks beside you so you never feel alone, a teacher who sparks your awakening at just the right time. Every detail matters. The places you'll meet, the age, the timing, even the words that will act as catalysts for remembrance. And you too are asked to show up in others' contracts. Yes, just as others agree to help you evolve, you agree to help them, to teach, to challenge, to hold, to mirror. Some contracts will be fulfilled easily, others will stretch across lifetimes, but everyone is sacred, and there are escape clauses, because free will never disappears. Even on earth, you can walk away, you can forget, you can choose again, but the soul always remembers, even when you do not. That strange pull towards someone you've just met, the sudden trust or tension or emotion you can't explain. Often it's a soul contract whispering beneath the surface of your memory. And when a contract is fulfilled, whether through love, learning, or letting go, something inside you feels lighter. Because the soul keeps score not with judgment, but with completion. Once these sacred agreements are crafted, once your spiritual relationships are mapped, the blueprint is set. And the next question arises. What, in this new life, will be your soul's central mission? That choice is the heart of your incarnation, and it comes next. But before we move forward, pause. Think of someone in your life right now, someone who challenges you, someone who helps you, someone you can't forget, no matter how much time has passed. What if your meeting wasn't random? What if it was agreed to long before you ever took your first breath? What if you are fulfilling something sacred, right now, without even realizing it? This is the power of the soul contract. And your soul? It remembers all of it, even now. Stage 7, Mission Blueprinting. Once your soul has chosen who will walk beside you, who will challenge, uplift, or awaken you, the next sacred question arises. Why am I returning at all? This is not about your job, not about your status or your achievements. This is deeper. This is about the vibration your soul intends to bring into the world. This is Mission Blueprinting, the stage where your soul defines the core frequency of your next incarnation. It is not always a dramatic purpose. Some souls come to heal karmic wounds. Some come to learn trust, forgiveness, or courage. Some come to break ancient cycles passed down through generations. Others, to hold light in a dark place. To be the first awakened soul in a lineage asleep for centuries. You may not remember it now, but your soul chose this mission with exquisite care. It asked itself, what is still incomplete within me? What energy have I never fully embodied? Where in the human experience have I hesitated? And where am I ready now to step forward? Sometimes the mission is to love, even after betrayal, to be vulnerable, even after lifetimes of defense, to speak truth, even in families or cultures where silence ruled for generations. And sometimes it is to inspire, to awaken others by simply being what you are, a living reminder of what's possible. But here's what most forget. Your soul never chooses a mission without also embedding the gifts required to fulfill it. You were not sent here empty-handed. The passions that burn within you, the the dreams you can't explain, the sensitivities you've often called burdens. They are not flaws. They are your spiritual tools, hidden in plain sight. Mission blueprinting doesn't look like picking a career. It looks like selecting the vibrational theme your life will sing. Some souls choose a quieter melody, kindness, peace, presence. Others choose a storm, disruption, revolution, raw truth. Neither is higher, neither is better, because the divine symphony requires all tones. And yes, the soul also chooses challenges, not as punishment, but as sacred resistance. Just as a muscle grows stronger against weight, the soul expands most when it meets what resists its light. You chose, with eyes wide open, the circumstances that would most awaken your dormant strength. The culture, the politics, the limitations, the grief, not all at once, but enough to shape you. And here is where things become almost unthinkably brave. You knew that once you entered the physical world, you would forget everything. Your mission, your contracts, even your own divinity. And still, you said yes, because that is what souls do. They leap into darkness just for the chance to find their way back to light. Before we move to the next stage, the choosing of body, genetics, and lineage, ask yourself this: what have I always felt called to do, even if I couldn't explain it? What kinds of wounds seem to return in my life, again and again? What kind of energy feels like it's asking to be born through me? These are not just patterns. They are clues, echoes, whispers from the blueprint your soul drew long before your birth. And if something inside you stirred just now, if a part of you felt seen or remembered or almost in tears, that is not coincidence. That's the soul, reminding you that your mission was never forgotten. It was only waiting. Stage 8, choice of Earth timeline and cultural age. After the soul defines its mission, that sacred frequency it longs to express, it faces another question. When shall I return? Because not all moments on Earth are the same. Each era, each generation carries its own vibration. Times of war and times of peace, times of spiritual hunger, times of awakening, collapse, revolution, or stagnation. The Earth moves in cycles, and the soul knows this. This stage, the choice of Earth timeline and cultural age, is where the soul selects not just the what, but the when. When will my light be most needed? When will my lessons be most potent? When will the collective energy of the planet best align with the mission I've chosen? The soul does not choose randomly. It studies Earth's timeline like a map, not in years or dates, but in energy clusters, frequency waves, opportunity windows. For some souls, the choice is to be born during a time of spiritual collapse, when truth is hidden and fear dominates. Why? Because such lifetimes forge inner strength. They demand authenticity when none is rewarded. They awaken spiritual resilience. Other souls choose to come during great awakenings, when the veil is thinner and more hearts are remembering. These are the bridge builders, the light bearers, the seed planters of new consciousness. You may wonder, if we choose when to incarnate, why would any soul choose a time of suffering? The answer lies in a truth few understand. Difficulty is often the fastest path to evolution. The soul does not seek comfort. It seeks expansion. And sometimes, the greatest expansion comes from walking into the fire. Not to be burned, but to forge something indestructible within. This is why some souls incarnate into places of poverty, oppression, or violence. Not to be victims, but because they knew that awakening under those conditions would be one of the highest acts of mastery. The culture you were born into, its language, religion, politics, history, all of it was chosen. Because those conditions create the perfect tension for your soul's growth. Even if it feels harsh, even if you've spent your life trying to escape it. Sometimes, being the one who remembers in a lineage that forgot is exactly the point. And sometimes, the soul chooses to return at a time of rapid change, like now. Yes, now. Have you noticed how many awakened souls are being born in this generation? How many children speak with wisdom far beyond their age? How many people feel the call to purpose, to healing, to truth, even if they can't name it? It's not random. This is a karmic convergence point, a time when many timelines are being reconciled, and your soul chose to be here for it. Right now, you are standing inside the moment your soul once saw from above and said, "That. I choose that." And once the timeline is chosen, once the cultural density and spiritual opportunity have been aligned, the soul moves to the next step, the choice of the vessel, the parents, the lineage, the genetic blueprint that will become your body. But before we enter that sacred selection, pause. Look at the time in which you were born, the country, the systems you grew up in, the limitations you faced, the collective beliefs you were handed. Now ask yourself, what if none of it was accidental? What if your soul chose this timeline on purpose, not in spite of the chaos, but because of it? Because something in you knew that you could bring light here, now in this age. And if you feel that stirring inside you, that ancient agreement quietly awakening, then know this: you are remembering. And the time your soul chose is now. Stage 9, choice of parents, body, and genetics. Once the soul selects the timeline, the historical frequency into which it will return, it moves to a decision far more personal. Who will give me life? This is the stage where the soul chooses its parents, its body, its genetic blueprint. Not metaphorically, literally. You chose them. Before you were born, you stood in a space beyond emotion, a state of clear spiritual vision, and looked at the lives of many potential parents, their personalities, their wounds, their karmic debts, their limitations, and their hidden gifts. You didn't judge them. You understood them. Because at the soul level, you weren't seeking perfect parents. You were seeking the exact combination of experiences that would shape you for your mission. And so you chose them, not for who they would be to the world, but for who they would be to you. Maybe you chose a mother who would be overprotective, so you could learn independence. Maybe you chose a father who would abandon you, so you could learn to reparent yourself and break ancestral patterns of emotional neglect. Maybe you chose a family steeped in trauma or scarcity, because your soul longed to transform that legacy into something new. And yes, this choice is often the hardest to accept, because many carry wounds from their childhood so deep, they cannot imagine they would have ever agreed to such pain. But the soul doesn't choose pain for punishment. It chooses pressure for transformation. Just as coal becomes diamond, you came to become something strong, clear, and radiant under pressure. And it's not only the parents, the body, your height, your voice, your skin tone, your gender, your neurobiology, none of it was accidental. You examined multiple genetic lines. You saw which ones would support your karma and which would challenge it. Some souls choose bodies with disabilities, to learn deep empathy, or to master life with limitations. Some choose beauty, to learn humility or the dangers of ego. Some choose to be born into minority cultures, so they can transmute collective pain into collective healing. What you see in the mirror is not random. It is the costume your soul chose for this sacred play. And within it, every organ, every reflex, every strength and weakness lies a coded message. This will serve you. Even if you hate parts of yourself, your soul does not. It chose your body with reverence, because it knew that through this body, no matter how flawed it seems, you could express your mission. And through your family, no matter how broken, you could awaken what they had long forgotten. This is also where intergenerational healing begins. When a soul is born into a family, it does not come alone. It brings with it the codes of remembrance, the ability to stop patterns that have looped for centuries. You may be the first in your bloodline to wake up, the first to forgive, the first to speak, the first to say, "This ends with me," and that alone is a mission worth returning for. Before we move to the next stage, the great forgetting, just breathe. Think of your parents, think of your body, your bloodline, your skin, your mind. You don't have to love it all. But what if you respected it? What if you honored your soul's decision to wear this form, in this family, at this moment in time? What if you looked in the mirror and saw not flaws, but agreements? Because once you remember that you chose this, you stop being a victim of your story. You become its author again, and your soul has always been writing. Stage 10, energetic calibration and memory veil. Now the soul has chosen everything: the timeline, the culture, the mission, the relationships, the body it will inhabit, even the family it will be born into. But before it can enter physical life, there is one final preparation. A sacred threshold that every soul must cross: energetic calibration and the veil of forgetfulness. In the higher dimensions, your soul is vast, a radiant being of light, woven from eternity, memory, and divine intelligence. It carries not just the story of one lifetime, but the echo of all your lifetimes, stretching beyond human comprehension. And yet, to incarnate into a single human form, something extraordinary must occur. That vast, eternal light must be condensed, narrowed, and gently placed within the fragile vessel of a newborn body. This is energetic calibration, where the frequency of the soul is slowly tuned to match the density of the earth. It is not a punishment. It is not loss. It is compression, like a star being folded into a seed, still infinite but now small enough to be planted into form. During this calibration, parts of your soul's memory must be veiled, because if you arrived in this world remembering everything, the agreements, the pain, the future, the past, you would never fully experience what it means to be human. And so, the veil of forgetfulness is placed, not as a curse, but as an act of cosmic mercy. It is the veil that allows you to fall in love without knowing the outcome, to make mistakes and learn from them, to rediscover truth through effort, pain, joy, and surrender. Without the veil, life would be predictable, safe maybe, but devoid of growth. And so you agree. You agree to forget your mission, to forget your spiritual origin, to forget the divine beings who helped you plan this life, to even forget your own divinity, so that one day, through choice and courage, you can remember. Because remembering when you weren't forced to, that is the true return. The moment the veil is placed is gentle but profound. The soul enters what feels like a fog, a soft amnesia that slowly thickens as the descent into matter begins. Memories fade like a dream you try to hold on to after waking. Names dissolve, visions blur. The voice of your guides becomes faint, and then silence. You are no longer fully there, but not yet fully here. You are hovering at the doorway between worlds, pure potential, wrapped in divine forgetting. But here's what the world won't tell you. The veil is not impenetrable. It is thin in places, in moments of deep silence, in dreams that feel more real than waking life, in déjà vu, in sudden moments of overwhelming love or grief. These are the tears in the veil. And through them, your soul whispers. It reminds you, even if you don't understand, even if you forget again 5 seconds later, the seed has been planted, and that seed cannot be unplanted. In fact, if you're watching this now, if these words are reaching some hidden part of you, then your soul is already pressing gently against the veil. Because it is time. And because once the veil is placed, the soul will take its final step into the womb, into matter, into the most sacred risk of all, to be born. Stage 11, the womb experience. After the veil is placed, after the soul's energy has been calibrated and gently compressed, the descent begins. Not as a fall, but as a return to the densest realm of learning, the physical world. And the first gateway into this new incarnation is not the delivery room, but the womb. For 9 months, the soul exists in a liminal state, not fully in the spirit world, and not fully in the human world either. This is the womb experience, a sacred space where the soul bonds with its vessel, slowly, delicately, silently. Most people never think of the womb as a spiritual place, but it is. In every mystical tradition, the womb is described as a portal, a gateway where soul and body entwine for the first time. In the early days, the soul may hover loosely around the embryo, watching, preparing, deciding how much presence to embody. Some souls stay near constantly. Others visit periodically, entering more fully later in the pregnancy, especially during key developmental stages. This decision isn't random. It's based on the soul's comfort, mission, and karma. And during this time, the soul listens. It listens to the mother's heartbeat, not just the rhythm, but the emotional vibration behind it. Joy, fear, longing, confusion. These frequencies begin shaping the soul's first impressions of Earth. The soul also absorbs the atmosphere of the family, the surrounding environment, and even collective energies from the culture it is about to enter. This is where epigenetic karma takes root. The soul doesn't inherit just DNA. It inherits emotional patterns, belief systems, ancestral fears, and hopes, etched into the mother's body, the father's silence, the lineage itself. And yet, within this sacred chamber, the soul brings something too. It carries memory, wisdom, purpose, light codes that begin to integrate with the forming nervous system, laying the spiritual foundation for the life to come. This is why certain children arrive already different, sensitive, wide-eyed, knowing things they've never been taught. Because even in the womb, the soul is whispering. Some babies flinch at harsh sounds. Some calm when hearing music their soul once loved. Some dream vivid images before they are even born. In this state, the veil is thinnest. It's why small children can speak of past lives, describe ancestors they never met, or talk to invisible friends who aren't imaginary at all. Because for a short time they remember. But the longer the soul remains in the womb, the more the veil thickens. Memory dims. The old world fades. The new world approaches. And yet, In moments of deep stillness, the soul still knows, I am preparing for something sacred. You may not remember your womb experience now, but it remembers you. That faint feeling of floating, that sense of being held by something vast and silent, that inexplicable connection you feel toward music, toward water, toward the moon. These are echoes of the first home your new life ever knew. And when the time is right, when the body is ready, when the soul has anchored fully, you move toward the final doorway, birth. But before we enter it, pause, close your eyes, place your hand on your chest. Can you feel it? The pulse behind the heartbeat? That's where you were, before you became you. And some part of you still remembers. The warmth, the darkness, the waiting, the ancient knowing. Soon, I will be born. Stage 12, the leap of faith, birth. And then, the moment arrives. After all the planning, after all the soul contracts, the blueprinting, the choosing, after the long, sacred silence of the womb, you are called forward. Not as a thought, not as a possibility, but as a life. This is the leap of faith, the soul's final act before incarnation. The soul stands at the threshold, between eternity and time, between spirit and matter, between remembering and forgetting. And in that moment, it knows what it's giving up. It knows it will forget the names of the ones it planned to meet. It knows the mission it wrote in light will blur beneath the noise of survival. It knows it will feel loss, pain, confusion. It knows there will be nights of despair, questions with no answers, longings that ache through bone. And still, it leaps, not out of ignorance, but out of unimaginable love. Because every soul that incarnates into Earth is performing one of the most courageous acts in the cosmos, to return to the darkness, knowing there is a light buried inside, and trusting that one day it will remember how to find it again. This is birth, not the first breath of the body, but the arrival of the soul. And it doesn't always happen in an instant. Some souls ease in gradually, others dive in with full presence, but all must pass through that narrow veil, a tunnel of pressure, sound, and confusion, where the memory of the divine becomes a faint whisper behind the cries of newborn lungs. The warmth of the womb gives way to cold light. Familiar vibrations are replaced with loud voices, sharp smells, human hands. You are held, you are weighed, you are named, and just like that, you are someone, a single identity in a single body in a single lifetime. But beneath the name, beneath the skin, beneath the human story about to unfold, you are still what you've always been, a soul, a traveler, a divine being on a mission to bring light into form. Even if you forget, even if you doubt, even if you live decades without remembering why you came, the truth remains. You came here by choice. You are not here by accident. Not in this body, not in this life, not in this era. You chose it all. And every time you awaken, even for a moment, to this knowing, a part of the veil lifts. A sliver of divine light pours back in. That's what this very video is. A tear in the veil. A moment of remembering, and now you have a choice. You can forget again. Return to the trance of the world. Let the illusions of fear, time, and separation cloud you once more. Or you can begin walking as if you remember. You can carry yourself differently, not as someone lost, but as someone returning. Returning to the mission, returning to the truth, returning to yourself. Because birth is not the end of the soul's journey. It's the beginning of the great remembering. The remembering of who you are, why you came, and how much love it took to make the leap. So the next time you wonder if you're meant to be here, or if you've strayed too far from your path, place your hand over your heart and know this: you made the leap. You said yes. You came here on purpose, and you are already awakening, not someday. Now, because remembering isn't a destination, it is a return, and you, beloved soul, have already begun.